Good evening and welcome to WANA Live, the reading series of the Writers Association of Northern Appalachia. I'm your host, Damian Dresick, and this is your other host,
Christina Fasonic. And tonight is the 100th episode of our show. It is hard to believe that we have had this reading series that long. Did you think when you came up with this idea and we started the wheels rolling that we would end up with 100 episodes?
I'll be honest, Christina, when I first thought of this, I thought we'd maybe get 10 writers and everybody would be seen by maybe 25 people. We've had at least 110 writers. We have had National Book Award finalists, Pulitzer finalists, Penn Hemingway finalists. We've had New York Times bestsellers, canonical folks, and we've had very young writers in their teens who are contest winners, emerging artists coming out of Northern and Southern Appalachia. We're so grateful for all the writers who made the time to join us, and we're equally grateful for the audience who has given them a reason to show up.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like we're really lucky for as much work as we and our guests put into the show. I feel like we're really fortunate to have regular viewers and people who just find us. So this is really exciting tonight. And
yeah, you had told me that we would have more than 23,000 views overall in all platforms through all the episodes. I would have not believed that.
Right. And you know, as much as we love in-person brick and mortar readings, I think that most reading series, especially regional ones, can't boast that they've had 23,000 views even over the course of there. So we've been very lucky and fortunate that so many people have found us and have tuned in and supported the show and our wonderful writers who've been on.
Yes, and tonight we could not be more pleased. We are so grateful to be bringing our audience the one, the only Bobbie Ann Mason. She is best known for her short story Shiloh and the Vietnam novel In Country. Both are taught widely. So if you went to college in America in the last 30 years, you've read Bobbie Ann Mason. Her new novel is Dear Anne. Her memoir, Clear Springs, was a Pulitzer Prize finalist and a wonderful memoir. She is a former writer in residence at the University of Kentucky, and she lives in Kentucky. And let's bring her out here.
Oh, hello. Welcome. Congratulations on your 100th episode. I'm happy to be here for that.
Thank you so much.
Oh, not as happy as we are to have you. Trust me. Thank you so much for coming on.
All right. Well, so you want me to read a little bit from my new novel, Dear Anne? Let's see.
Yes.
Dear
we would
Anne.
love that.
Oh, that looks fantastic.
Looks with a psychedelic bluebird.
All right, we're going to just here and let you do that.
All right.
All right. Well, this novel takes place basically in the 60s when Anne and Jimmy are graduate students. Anne is looking back at that time from 2017. She's on a cruise ship and she's thinking back to that time and wondering if she could imagine an alternative life for the last 50 years. And so she's thinking about this. She had gone to a small college in upstate New York, and but her mentor had gone to Stanford University. And she's thinking, well, what if I had gone to Stanford instead? And she's thinking, if she had gone to California, she never would have met Jimmy. She could still hardly bear to think about him. And so she's thinking, it would be an unexpected pleasure to imagine her youth on an alternate path. And being young again in the 60s, what a blast to start over in California. she could reimagine her life, and Jimmy wouldn't be in it, or it would have turned out differently with Jimmy, and she wouldn't be in this nightmarish image on an alien sea. So here she goes to Stanford University. In her imagination, the university is at the end of a long avenue lined with lofty palm trees, and drove slowly, the car creeping along as if it too was nervous about the ultimate destination of the cross-country journey. Halfway down the avenue, she pulled over. Stanford displayed itself lavishly in front of her, both tantalizing and threatening. The amount of wealth it held was beyond Anne's imagination. She had not expected the campus to be so large and quiet and leafy. The giant oak trees splayed their limbs like lazy gymnasts. She saw trees that might have been redwoods, tall and gaunt, pinpointing the sky. She ambled through a grove of what she thought were eucalyptus trees. It was a grand and lonesome place, but she wasn't afraid of being alone. She was afraid of Ivor Winters, the prominent literary critic who would be her advisor. She had heard he was a curmudgeon and rationalist. What would he expect of her? She was sure that a more backward bumpkin had never crossed the threshold of almighty Stanford University. And Anne's mother in Kentucky sends letters, and they interrupt the narrative from time to time. Hopewell, Kentucky, September 4th, 1966. Dear Anne, glad to get your phone call and to know you're getting settled. I know you must be excited about all your new classes and your new apartment. That woman you rent from sounds like a character. That neighbor of ours who always keeps squirrel on the table brought us some squirrels she shot, and I had a time cleaning out the buckshot. Back in the summer, she kept wanting to get some Indian peaches off of us, and I told her, I'm sorry, but you come to a goat's house to get wool. We ain't had any Indian peaches in 10 years. Oh, what I'd give for an Indian peach right now. The only peaches I could get this year were wormy. Love, Mama. And goes through various adjustments at Stanford, trying to get used to the people and the high intellectual seminars. And there's a couple next door. Often late at night, the couple next door began jiggling their bed frame and knocking it against the thin wall. And listened, although the sounds made her grumpy. Anne had never really had a boyfriend, a relationship, that is, the term in vogue. Although she wasn't without sexual dalliances, nobody she had ever cared about had said, I love you, or given her a gift. She had been lovelorn throughout college over a certain Thomas from her sophomore art history class, and had not gone steady with anyone since. In the mornings, when she heard the couple next door, their shower was like the sound of time whizzing by. A bit later on, after she gets settled in her life at Stanford, and is having a few problems and not adjusting terribly well. And then Jimmy appeared. Remember, Jimmy was not supposed to be in this fantasy. And to recognize that, there are passages that are set in italics, and in present tense. So we're back to the cruise ship in 2017. So after it says, and then Jimmy appeared in italics, he isn't supposed to be here. She feels a trace of vertigo from an almost imperceptible wobble of the cruise ship. But they are in California, she thinks, clutching the rail. It can be a different story. Jimmy sat across from Anne in the Kelly and Sheets class. That's what he called the seminar on the poetry of Keats and Shelley. That was probably an old joke, she thought later. Whenever she glanced up from her notebook, he was gazing across the oval table at her. But he lowered his eyes when she noticed him. Her heart did a butterfly caffeine flutter and then revved up. He had long, shaggy hair like a poodle dog. Random ringlets framed his face. At the end of the class, he shoved his books into a green canvas bag and slung it over his shoulder before he moved in her direction. Which is your favorite, Kelly or Sheets? He asked. Keats, of course. How can that be a question? She was trembling. Touché, he grinned. He had nice, even teeth. He was smoking a cigarette. They headed down the stairs. Where do you come from? He asked. I like your accent. Kentucky, can you hear my accent? Yeah, can you hear mine? A little northern Detroit. Chicago. He sucked his cigarette and then blew little contrails out his nostrils. Tell me everything about yourself, he said. Everything? Sure. What was your first word? First tooth. Stuff from your baby book. The sunlight on the main quad was blazing. As if they had a destination, they headed toward Hoover Tower. She was glad it was her heretofore embarrassing accent he had mentioned, instead of the fatuous remarks she had made in class about Shelley's wind poems. Sitting on the steps of Hoover Tower, she told Jimmy things about her childhood she wouldn't have expected to tell, about milking cows and cleaning manure from the barn. His childhood was Boy Scouts and Cubs games in suburban Dullsville, Illinois. He apologized for his humdrum history, which sounded alien to her. He smoked another cigarette. Let's walk, he said after a while. Give me your books. He stuffed her Keats and Shelley paperbacks and her notebook into his bag, then hoisted it over his shoulder. Where are we going? She asked. Nowhere, just walking around. They meandered around the library and back to the quad. He zigzagged in and out of the archways. they, they passed the bookstore and the crazy green fountain. Jimmy crooked his elbow for her to take his arm. She liked touching him. He was tall, but not towering. He wore a nondescript brown duffel coat, a blue Oxford shirt, and twill khakis with an ink stain on one knee. His clothes seemed to be an undergraduate wardrobe he hadn't worn out yet. She liked his long, messy hair and the unself-conscious way he walked, a walk that meant confidence. Her car was in the parking lot below Tressiter Union. When they reached her car, he handed over her books. I'm going the other way, he said. See you in class. He waved a little goodbye. Anne was stunned. She felt as though an actor had stepped off the screen and taken her for a vigorous stroll through a make-believe El Dorado before slipping back into the celluloid. What movie? What actor? Actors were all suave with molded hair. Jimmy was something new. she bought an ashtray in case he ever came to her apartment. And in italics, would he really wear that old duffel coat? It's 71 degrees and sunny in Palo Alto. Okay, thank you.
Oh my gosh. I feel like it's like, how am I going to wait until I get this book to find out what happens? I really love a lot of things about what you read, but my favorite was the letter from Mama, because I could hear my own mother saying something like, "Well, you've come to the wrong place. You've come to a goat's house to get wool." I mean, I can imagine my mom saying that. You're not going to find anything like that around here. But I also was really intrigued, just on the writer level, of how the challenges of crossing time and space in your writing. How do you manage that? I mean, that's so impressive. I can barely write like in the right tense in my work.
Well, it's a kind of complicated, and there's a story within a story. Well, there's a story in 1966 to 68 or so, and a little longer. And then there's a story in 2017, which is the frame story. We come back to that. So basically, the story happens in 2017. It's in her recall and in her imagination. So it all happens when she's thinking about her memories. And the story has been portrayed as, the road not taken, or what would happen if you could follow a different road. Well, the road not taken in this story it's very difficult to conjure up an alternate life for yourself. You sink back into your memories. I think Anne is trying her best to conjure up California, and she's more successful at describing Stanford University than she is in thinking up a new life for herself.
Which is fascinating, because I think we get hung up on this idea that memories are static, but they change over time, and they can overpower the present, and the present can overpower memory, and it's so intriguing.
Yes, and I don't know, I just tried to follow the story, and it psychologically you can work out those time complications, I think, as a writer.
So cool.
I love the fact that you have Jimmy showing up, the one person that has this effect on her life, and she imagines this entire universe. And no, you're fated to have this person. It's not, even if you're conceiving of your own life, you're the architect of this reality, and you still put him back there.
She can't get away from him,
right.
Obviously.
No, such wonderful. One of the things that I so much love about your work is often you read a book and there'll be 4 or 5 sentences that you'll just say, "Man, those really shine." And with your work, there's like 2 per page. How do you do that?
I don't know.
If you knew you'd be rich, because you could sell that to other people.
Well, yeah, I could have a program I could
right, exactly.
have subscribers.
Exactly. And then you can drip out the content a little bit at a time.
Yeah. The thing about writing is that you really don't know how you do it. You know that you work on it really hard to get it right, because it's never right at the beginning, early drafts, and as you keep going into it, it reveals itself, and you get more clarity about what's happening.
I love those magic moments where you're really truly in the story. You're in the writing. You're no longer like stuck in this one place, but in this imaginary world, which is exciting. And you want to try to
Pardon?
Oh no, I love ways it reveals itself. I think that's wonderful advice for folks who are writing. That's terrific. By the way, I have a friend, at least one. I'm going to get a business card for that's going to say their name and then below it, curmudgeon and rationalist.
See, I like the reference to the backward bumpkin. That was my favorite part. I was laughing at the background. That was awesome. Well, we're not the only ones who liked what you had to say. Some of our regular viewers have hopped on to give you some feedback. Bart says this was very enjoyable. And Rusty Barnes, who is always on, says, thanks for reading. I will get this novel having heard you. I loved In Country. And in fact, when we announced it, when we announced that you were coming on, tons of people came out and said, I loved In Country so much. So you've really made an impact. So
yeah, no. The story collection, Shiloh and Love Life, those were, I mean, I learned to write reading those stories. I mean, I can remember being in my grandmother's house, sitting there like taking notes about, well, how did she do this? How did this work? How does this, such a miracles of language and imagination.
Well, now she doesn't know how it works. That's the secret, that you just keep going with it, right?
You know, I was going to say,
I think it's not very intellectual. I seem to get sounds and images. Sound plays a great part of it. I work on it again and again and again until it sounds right. And I'll it's hard to break through and change major things, and I just keep going over it. And maybe not really understanding why it's that way. Like the mother is there writing these certain letters, and it's like Anne trying to reimagine her life. Sometimes I can't reimagine what I've written, but
well, I think, do you think that part of it is about trying to find what sounds true?
It may be, but
that sense, but like, right, like this is what it sounds like to you.
Yeah, well, I would not say to myself, I'm looking for something that sounds true. This sounds halfway true. Does this sound true? No, that doesn't sound true. I just wouldn't put it in abstract terms.
Interesting.
I would say, well, would she tell the bit about the going to the goat's house to get wool, or would it be something else, or the jiggling springs of the mattress in the apartment next door?
I love that.
I wouldn't stop and say, well, why is that there? I would say, well, are they jiggling? What does it sound like? And how thin is the wall? You know, it's all in details, I think. And you're just wandering around in all these specifics. And that's where it is. I can't ask an abstract question. Because awesome. The story itself has to come to life, and it can't come to life out of abstraction. You, the reader, may be able to conclude something in general about the story, but that's not the way I went about it. So there's a difference.
Love that. That's awesome. What a great explanation. Thank you.
I could not help but wonder if Anne was going to bump into Ed McClanahan or Chuck Kinder in Stanford in 1966.
I am not sure. I think she's a little later than Ed McClanahan. Well, I guess Ed McClanahan was there at the time, but
yeah, whatever. Right. So we did get some more comments here.
Okay.
Jerry says, love the conversations. It's a thoughtful, very thoughtful piece and true. Enjoy the lyrical prose. I like flow. That's good.
Oh,
And
thank
the
you.
Watershed Journal, one of the best assets to the Pennsylvania wilds, for sure, especially the writers in the region, says great advice about bringing the story to life through detail. And thanks for reading.
Oh, nice.
Well, thank you so much for making time to come on the show tonight, Bobbie. And we were really grateful. It was wonderful to hear you read. Could you hold up Dear Anne again so people can?
Okay. It's just
All right.
this fall out in paperback.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you. So run to the store and get a copy of Dear Anne, and you'll be able to find out what happened with Jimmy and Stanford.
Yeah, I want to know. And if I had the chance to do it all over again or to reimagine, I don't think I'd do it. I think it'd be too exhausting. It'd be too exhausting. Thank you so much for helping us celebrate our 100th episode. And
Oh, it was a pleasure.
I can't tell you, I know that tons of people that are watching right now are struck by your work, and we can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you. Do you keep this available so other people can watch it?
Absolutely. Yes. And we usually get even more views in the week after our shows air.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yes. And feel free to share. We sent you some links, I think. You sent some links, right, Damien?
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry my four cats didn't show up for you, but
I was a little disappointed with the lack of cats since we were offered the potential.
Yeah, there are 4 cats here, but I fed them right before this. So
that's a good strategy. So they eat their dinner.
Well, if you could guarantee they'd show up, they'd be dogs.
True.
Oh.
That's true. Well, good night, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you again.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
See you next week, everyone. Here's to the next one.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.